All right, y'all, this is just a completely random video. I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff because I have a lot of stuff on my mind. But first off, I want to talk about this with everyone. My issue with thinking that there isn't a creator or God, and there not being one or there being one, this is a question that I ask and really think about this when I say this. When something is born, it needs to be nurtured. It needs to have an environment where it can be fed and it can be warm, because if it's not warm, it will freeze to death. And if it's born in a tropical area, then it still can't raise itself. So this is why I have this thing where I say, well, where did the first bird come from? How did it come about? How did it take care of itself? Do you understand what I mean here? See, this is the one thing that keeps me from calling myself an atheist, is that, but yet I still doubt that there's a God. You see what I mean? I'm on the fence with this issue, and I think I will be there the rest of my life. There's some days where I am way more doubtful, and there's some days where I am kind of leaning towards saying that something had to have started this in a certain way. Because if we go back to the human being, the first humans that came about, okay, say that we came from something. Say that we came from apes. Let's just use this theory, even though I don't think that. Before the apes, how did the apes come about? See, we don't think about this. We don't go back to the very, very beginning. Okay, say that there was a cell that turned something into something. How did it survive? How did it survive the elements? Are you really thinking about this? How did it survive the elements? Really think about this. If it's cold, nothing can survive. It has to have, even penguins have to have the mother there for them to be under her for the egg. So how did the first penguin come about if there was nothing there to nurture it? How did the first human come about if there was nothing there to nurture it? If there was nothing there to feed it or protect it from the elements or keep it warm enough? It makes no sense. It makes no sense to me. And this is where I say, how did this all come to be? How did humans and animals come to be? I can see material things coming to be automatically. I can see them always being here. But humans and animals is another thing. Because if we go back to the very first animal, or we go back to the very first human being, how did it come to be an egg or something, and then when it hatched, how did it survive? It can't survive on its own. It just can't do it. It's impossible. It needs a mother to have it. So where did the first mother and father come from? Are we really thinking about what I'm saying? This is going to go over a lot of people's heads that are into this evolution, and creationists and Christians and Muslims and everybody, whatever you call yourself, whatever ist you call yourself, forget about that for this video and really listen to what I'm saying here. And I can go on and on about this forever because it makes no sense. I say if I was let's just use this as an example. Say I was the first human being. And let me do this as a disclaimer. I am not trying to prove the existence of God, and I am not trying to doubt the existence of God or say there is or there isn't a God. I am just saying this out of common sense. Say that I was the first human that came about. What was there to nurture me? What was there to give me milk? What was there to keep me warm? What was there to protect me? There wasn't no building there that I just came up in. There was no building built. It was the dirt of the earth. It was trees. Right now I'm out in the snow. There's no way that I can survive this. To come into a person, there is no way that that can happen. It is impossible. Even in a warmer climate, it can't happen because I'm out in the elements. It's impossible. You know, if I'm this little tiny embryo that comes about from whatever, and I say, well, where did the first man and woman come from? It makes no sense. If you go back to the first man, then there had to be something to nurture it. If you go back to the first woman, there had to be something there to nurture it. And see, this is where, even in my biggest doubts, I doubt so much that there is this God that we think is God. I don't think there's any God that is a religious God. I think this whole God concept is a complete and utter mystery to us. I don't think we will ever know. I don't think we'll ever know. And this whole afterlife thing, that makes no sense either. You know, it just makes no sense to me. This is crazy. This is crazy that we're here. I mean, it's absolutely crazy when I think about it that we are here. I mean, are we really thinking about this? I'm saying think like you've never thought before. Because most of you, you're just going by some textbook, or you're going by what your parents told you, or what some professor told you, or what evolution has told you or taught you in school. Throw all that to the side and let's think logically here. If something cannot survive in the elements on its own and it needs a mother or a father, how did the first mother or father come about? How? Explain this to me. Explain this to me, because there's no way around it. There is no way to explain this. If the mother and the father of the thing that is nurturing the thing for it to be fed and for it to grow and come about and be in the environment it's in, how did the first mother or father nurture themselves? How did they get food? How did they survive the elements? There was nothing there to keep them away from getting killed. I can't wrap my mind around this. And the more I think about it, it's something had to have been there to keep it out of the elements, to nurture it, to raise it, to make it be what it is. Or, listen, I'm not saying that this is right or wrong. I am not saying there is a God or there isn't a God. That's not what I'm saying in this video. But this is what stops me from calling myself an atheist. Because it's very hard to just think that all of this came about from nothing by itself, but then at the same time, I doubt that there's a God. And it's the mystery that keeps me like, what in the world? Like, if you really think about this stuff, like, how did cells or DNA or organisms, I already did a video about this, but how did they know? How the F did they know to make a penis with a scrotum and a butthole to crap out of, and women with breasts and a nose and eyes and the joints in our bodies and the blood vessels and all these things, the eyeball, the fingers? How did it know to do this? Just really think about how crazy this is. Just think about how nuts this is. It's almost like it's too good to be true. It's almost like it's impossible to happen. It's almost like it's an impossibility that we could be what we are and animals could be what they are. It just seems almost impossible to me. This doesn't seem like any sort of chance that this could be. It seems inevitable. But then again, I ask, if there's a creator, then what created that creator? And then it goes back and back and back. And I can't escape thinking about that either. Then I say, okay, if there is this God, if there is this God, if there is this creator, or there is creators, or there is some kind of intelligence, then what made that? What did that? What brought that into this realm of reality or this existence, you know? And then I think, well, existence always been here. Then how did this come about? It just, to me, it's almost like an impossibility. Even though it's happening. It's happening. I'm here. And I'm looking at the snow on the ground. And I'm feeling the cold. And I'm looking around with my eyes. And I'm seeing light. And I'm hearing things. And I'm speaking to you. It's like, this is the mystery that keeps me going. Is like, this is impossible. This is an impossibility. Even though we say all this negative shit, and I know how we speak about things, and like me, I speak about all the negative shit that I speak about, and I speak about stuff like this, I still can't get over how crazy it is that I am even here, that I am even talking, that I am even able to think to do a video like this. It just makes no sense at all. None whatsoever. And I think we get too hung up on these ists. These, I'm an atheist, I'm an evolutionist, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm a this ist and that ist. It's like, let's drop that for just a little bit, because once you drop that, you drop it forever. You cannot go back to old concepts or things that you already know because you know them. And I might as well just get into it in this video if you get this far. But knowledge and understanding, once you have the knowledge of what the Bible says and what Jesus said in the Bible, once you have the knowledge and experience of these things, you don't need to keep going back to them over and over again. You already know what these things say. And I'm just using this as an example. You already know what it says in certain books. You already know what the words of Jesus were. You already know what the scientists said. You already know what elements are. You already have experienced things and you have this knowledge of this stuff. And you say, well, I can't do no more because I already know everything. I already know this. I've already been there and done it. And then you get to this phase where you start asking questions beyond what you already know. And that's where this mystery comes in. And I can't get enough of it. Like, it never goes away. I am constantly thinking about things like this. Like, how in the world did this do this? How in the world did this come about? How in the world does a cow make milk? How in the world do our eyes tear up? How in the world did we have teeth to have to chew with? Like, how would these cells and DNA and all these things know to make teeth in our mouth because we have to chew the food before we swallow? How did it know to put the nostrils right here where we can smell the food and what we're eating? How did it know to put the eyes here and the ears here and to put our elbows to bend like this and all this shit? I don't know. It's just, I can't wrap my mind around it. And everybody will have an answer. There is no answer to this, y'all. There is no answer. I don't need an answer. I don't need an opinion or an answer. This is just me actually saying how this really is. And there is no answer for it. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what you say because none of us really know. We don't know. Like, this is the weirdest conundrum ever. You can know so many things. You can gain so much knowledge and understanding, but yet there's still that mystery there that you don't know so many things, even if you do know so many things. And understanding and knowledge only comes from experience and experiments. That's the only place that knowledge and understanding can come from, is experience and experimenting. Like when we call someone a genius, all that a genius is someone and an inventor. They didn't invent nothing. They just took little bits and pieces of information and they used that to make something that they said was an invention. It wasn't invented. They took tad bits and little pieces of knowledge here and knowledge there and this knowledge, and they experimented with it. They experienced and they experimented with it, and that's why we call people geniuses. You know, if someone would hear my music and it would be a beat like that would totally blow your mind, people would go, "Oh, you're a genius." No, it's because I have been making music for so long and I have been experimenting with it and I have experienced so many things. That's why I'm not going to call myself a genius, but I think to myself that I am a genius because I know a lot of stuff about a lot of things. Like when we call these people geniuses, that's all that it means, is that they know stuff. They have an understanding of stuff. They have experienced stuff. They have read stuff. They have lived through stuff. That's all that it means to be an inventor or a genius. That's all that it means, y'all. And once you know these things, see, you can't stay hung up on something when you already know what something is. If you know what the Bible really says, you will not be stuck on the Bible. If you know what all the elements are in this life, salt, water, hydrogen, copper, zinc, you will not be caught up still having to learn about those things. You will be experimenting with those things. And you will go through experiences while experimenting with those things. You know, if you lived in the cold weather your whole life, then you had many experiences and you experimented with the cold weather. You know, this whole thing, there is nothing that just comes out of thin air. There's nothing that just comes about from nothing that we think of. It's all little bits of information that men have already done. Like the bow. The bow was created because someone took the skin of an animal and it dried out. They tried to put a stick on the skin and it shrunk and it bent the bow. And they started using a bow and arrow. This is what Jacques Fresco. I learned this from Jacques Fresco. And he's no genius. He just knows a lot of stuff. And it's like I'm in this position where I don't want to call it a struggle, but I'm in this weird, very, very weird place in my life where I doubt God and I doubt the existence of something. Excuse me. I get stuff in my nose out here because it's cold. I doubt the existence of God and I doubt that there's a creator. Then on the other hand, I can't say that I didn't learn anything from the book of the Bible and Jesus Christ's words, because that made me repent for the things that I did in my life. That was one part of my life, though. It's just one little part. You see, I didn't stay stuck on that thing, but it did save me from certain things. It showed me that certain things are absurd and ridiculous, like riches, money, fame, talking about violence and all this stuff. I realized through the Bible, Ecclesiastes, Romans, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, me reading those things over and over again, these metaphors have helped me to gain knowledge. It has helped me to see things. But am I still taking this so literally? Like, am I on that all the time? No, it's something that's in my psychological state, though. It's something that will always be there. I can't get what I already know out of my head. And there's days where I still do pray to myself. I pray like there is something, because there's something that someone said, and I forget who said this, but it's kind of like we're looking everywhere else. We're looking all over the place. We're looking in this spiritualism, and we're looking towards other people and other places and things. When they said that God, quote God, the word God can mean so many things. But God, if anything, is within yourself. It's right here with you. I'm not saying that you are God. That's not what I'm saying. But if it says we are made in the image of God, I'm just using this as metaphors. I'm not saying this literally, like it's literally for real. But if we're using the metaphorical way, we were created in the God made man in the image of God, or man made God in the image of man. See, it can be flipped either way. It's just all how you see it. But listen, I use that because I know there are a lot of people out there that do believe in God. I know there's a lot of people out there that you think that Jesus is the Son of God and that he died for us and all this stuff. But once you get into that more and you really, really, really have read it many times and you really understand what is going on, then you'll know what I mean. You can't know until you experience it yourself. You can't know until you experience and experiment with these things. You can't know certain things. It's really hard for me to describe this to you. It's really hard for me to get my point across to you. It's almost impossible because you're not me. You see what I'm saying? You haven't experienced what I experienced. You haven't experimented with what I've experimented with. So you cannot know what I'm saying. You can't relate to certain things, but you can never know unless you experience that for yourself or you experiment with it yourself. Then you can never know. There's no way. It's impossible. You understand what I'm saying here? And look, like I said, it's really, really hard to describe to people. But like I said, I still do pray from time to time. I still do pray. And what I'm doing is I am reflecting on myself when I'm praying. Whether there is a God or there isn't a God, it does not matter if there is or there isn't a God. All that you're doing when you're praying is you're reflecting on your own life. You're reflecting on things that are going wrong or things that you don't think that you can get past or you can't do. And there's some times where people personally might have to do that for themselves. I don't have a problem with people praying or people going into a mosque and getting on their knees and surrendering to God or themselves. Whether there is a God or not, it does not matter. It is something that they're doing to reflect upon themselves in order for themselves to think that, okay, I did this, I surrendered, now I can be what I am. You know, I can't explain it the way that I'm trying to explain it, but it's really hard for people that have not went through this religious stage or has not lived by and practiced these things. Like, I took this wholeheartedly at one time. I wasn't no half-ass Christian. I used to take this very seriously, and I practiced these things. I did this, like, I lived it, you know, so I can talk about it. See, a lot of people, you never lived through it. You never experienced it. You never experimented with it. You never went out on the streets and evangelized to people. You never read the Bible, probably the whole thing before. You never read each book, you know, one by one. You never did a lot of the things I did. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if I believe or not. It doesn't matter if I have this faith or not. None of that matters to me. It's just, like I said, once you experience these things and you know what they are because you did it so many times, you can't just keep doing it over and over and over and over again. It's like you've been there, you've done it so many times that it becomes boring. It becomes bored. You become bored with it. It's like, I said this same prayer thousands of times. I called out to God thousands of times for the same thing, and nothing happened the way that I really wanted it to happen. Maybe a few things did, but that's because of chance. That is chance, folks. That is rolling the dice. At least I'm gonna roll a 6 at least, you know, 10 times out of 100, you know what I mean? So I just think this labeling stuff, there's too many of us that are labeling everything. Like Osho says this, he says, there's a difference between religion and being religious. See, I don't have a problem with religiousness. I don't have a problem with people with religionness. And this, you won't understand this, but I have a problem with religion. The ideology of someone saying this is really what it is, and I know this is what it is, when you don't know that's what it is. But if you're someone that practices stuff because you have to do that to personally, you know, get yourself out of something because you feel like you're losing your mind or you're going insane or you're having some type of problem, and that's what you need to do for yourself, then that's what you need to do for yourself. I can't judge you on that matter. But it all comes down to you, the person that is listening. Like me, I can't help you. I can't do anything for you. I cannot tell you what to be, how to be, when to be. I can't tell people that. You got to tell yourself that. That's why, like, people that may come to me for certain help, I can't help anyone. I can't do anything for anyone. You see, once you understand this, then you'll understand what I mean when you know that you really can't help anyone. You can do little things to do something in the moment for people, but you can't help them to help themselves. It's got to be a personal thing that you want to do. It's got to be something that you seek out because you want to seek it out. It can't be anyone else doing it for you. It doesn't happen like that. And some people, that's what they still think. They think that this God is going to do it for them. They think that their family's going to do it for them. They think that their friends and family are going to do it for them. And they're not. They're not going to do it for them. Nothing's going to do anything for you but you. And that's just the God's honest truth about it. And I can't even get in my car here to sit down. But anyway, I'm ending the video there. I'll be doing another video here. I don't know which ones I'll upload, but yeah, just think about that, because I don't think that we're thinking outside of the box. I think that we're just living in these stale, old religion worlds and these spiritual things that we say that we think is real and we don't even know. It's like, if you can't tell yourself that you don't know, then you don't know what I mean, because that should always be our answer. We don't know. And the things that we do know, and we're honest about them. It's not that hard. But yet again, you can't tell anybody that unless they experienced it and went through it for themselves. Point blank, period. So stay up, stay lowly, resonate.